Next up on the show, a recurring segment with two of my favorite guests who it's been too long since I had on. I figured I'd bring them on together because it also gives us an excuse to talk about their amazing podcast, The Owner's Box, which if you're not paying attention to, you definitely should be, because it's a great place to get horse racing news. It's a great place to hear banter. It's a great place to learn about the game on an industry level and a horse player level. We will introduce first, returning to the airwaves in her modified Princess Leia do, or whatever's going on out there. It's Michelle Yu. How are things, Michelle?
I'm great, PTF. How are you? High five, Billy.
Wait, there. I went the wrong way.
Come on, we've been doing these Zoom calls.
They're all the wrong way.
For 2 years now, and
I don't even know where to look.
And that voice you hear, you know him from the Owner's Box. You know him as one of the managing partners, or is it the managing?
Oh, no, excuse me. It is the founder and managing partner.
I should have asked the professional who's up here. I pointed to the wrong one for a second. Founder and managing partner of Little Red Feather Racing.
Great child of Solana Beach Sales.
Yes.
And a man who's riding high at the moment. He's Billy Koch. Billy, how are things?
Everything is good, Pete. No complaints. That's what I always say. No complaints. We had a great day yesterday. Great day for our partners in Solana Beach Sales. Sold the sales topper at Facing Tipton, which is an amazing achievement. And really, the credit goes to Tom McCrocklin, he is the man. I mean, that's the fourth horse we've sold in 6 years for over $1 million. So he's really an incredible finder of horses, picker-outer of horses, consigner of horses. Just he gets all the credit.
For those who don't know, the Solana Beach Partnership, an offshoot of Little Red Feather, where you specialize in pin hooking. Is that the right way to put it?
Yeah, primarily pin hooking. In fact, the filly that we sold yesterday, we actually bred through one of our breeding pin hook partnerships. So we wanted to do something different. A lot of our partners didn't just want to race. They wanted to do more different things. So we got into pin hooking about 6 years ago, and it's a wild ride. You think racing is wild. This is insanity when you're standing there and two people. It was Spendthrift and another group that it was crazy. It started at like 800 and it just kept going and going and going. And you're just, it's really wild. It's really, really wild. It's really cool. And of course, I sent a nice text to Tom late last night when I arrived in LA, and he just wrote back this morning, easy game.
With heavy irony, no doubt.
Which is so not everything. Yes. Michelle and I on our podcast, on our Owner's Box podcast, we literally say at every show, this game is so hard. And it doesn't matter what part of the game, every part is hard. So when you have a day like yesterday where you sell a big horse, it is just, it's like you take a deep breath and say, okay, we did something right.
That's awesome. I'm glad for you. That's a great story and an excellent description. Let's talk about the Owner's Box for a second. Michelle, tell us, let folks know either a recent show you've been particularly proud of or something you have coming up that folks might be interested in. I want to make sure, that everybody's paying attention.
As soon as we finish a show, I forget completely about it.
We had a great show the other day. We had Boyd Browning. If you want to know anything about it, was really good.
We had the Classic Causeway owners on. We try and get a lot of Derby concentric as we're getting towards Derby, and Breeders' Cup concentric to get towards Breeders' Cup. I mean, I think we've had some really great, amazing, big name guests on. My favorite that ever is Billy surprised me and got Gary Barber on our show. And I had been harassing him for years to be on it. And so Billy's like, I'm not going to tell you who it is. And we had to do like a question answer. And he only answered me like, yep. And I had guess who it was. And I was like, is this Gary Barber?
You did it with Gary. That's right. That was fun. One of my favorites, other than Bill Strauss, of course, that we have to mention every single show. Jimmy Bell, I thought.
What stories he had.
He was incredible. He just kept going and going. I think we talked to him for like 45 minutes, and I felt badly because we try to keep it short. We know these guys are busy, and he was amazing. It's one of those that just stands out in my mind as a really fun. And we try to keep it very light. We're not the show that you're going to come and talk about controversies in the world of horse racing. That's just not who we are, and that's not what we're about. We want to just find out these owners' stories, where they came from, how they got into ownership, and really a trip down memory lane for them as well. So it's a really uplifting, most of the time. And, we find out a lot about these people behind the scenes. Pete, when I started this with Michelle, we started, I think 7 or 8 years ago. And
hasn't been that long. I feel like
I think it's been that long. And the key was I was tired of people saying this is Chad Brown's horse or Bob Baffert's horse or this person, Christophe Clement's horse. It's not. It's the owner's horse, and the owners never really got to tell their story. So we were just looking for an avenue, what's the word I'm looking for? Some type of forum for these people to tell their stories and to get their names out, so that they too can be just known, really, rather than just a behind the scenes people who don't say anything.
And I like too how we've gone from, we literally have taken a 1 micro share owner of my racehorse, and that's the only thing they own, all the way up to, like Billy said, Jimmy Bell, Paul Redham. We've had Garrett O'Rourke on. We've had, big names and big people in the industry. Costa Horonis come on multiple times, and to have people from like this much of an ownership to like we're winning Eclipse Awards hand over fist ownership, I think has been very cool to show, just the diversity in what goes on in ownership itself.
And what I like about it from a horse player point of view is just hearing the way people in those roles think, as well as your guys' own excellent analysis, but hearing the way an owner thinks. It's not about getting a tip, oh, this horse can run. You may get some of that, but more, it helps me as a horse player, because then you go back through the past performances and you can start to think like an owner and understand why a horse would be in a certain spot, and then by extension why they're in the spot today. And I really think it can help you come up with some theories and pushes on horses, or reasons to maybe fade a horse on this day or another day, and then you get specific tidbits as well. So I mean, for you, Michelle, as an analyst, has doing the show and talking to all these people on that level, has it helped your ability to do your job?
Oh, definitely. Hearing some of the stories about horses, about why they end up in certain spots, or how they end up with a trainer, or how they end up even just buying the horse, really gives you a different insight. When we're coming around 2-year-old time, we do ask people like, what do you have up and coming? And, what did you buy at the sale that you like, or what did you breed? So we've been able to follow some of those horses that have actually panned out to be, a decent bet or a bet back. So there have been instances like that where we're able to utilize that in the handicapping aspect. Although we try and steer clear of handicapping on our show. I mean, there's a million handicapping pods out there. There's none as good as In the Money, but there are a million out there. So we try not to do that, but there is obviously a little bit of overlay on occasion.
Once there were 2 horse racing podcasts, the In the Money Players podcast and the Owner's Box in your previous incarnation. Yes. So it's good that we have, we've teamed up to attempt to conquer. Forces. That's right. Combined forces in an attempt to conquer the horse racing podcasting world. You be the judge if it's been successful or not. But we're not here today to talk about the Owner's Box, even though it seems like we are. We're here today to look at the Golden Hour Pick 4, one of our favorite bets in racing, connecting the last 2 races at Santa Anita at Golden Gate. Very player-friendly terms with an industry-low takeout. And also, I believe the higher minimum creates a little bit more meat on the bone, a little bit more value for players who can get these combinations right, as opposed to have everything arbed away by computers. It kicks off on Saturday in race number 8 at Santa Anita. Actually, hang on one second. I'm looking at the wrong day's past performances. Bit of a host fail here.
That's still right. It's still the 8th race at Santa Anita on Saturday.
But I was about to say something wrong. This 8th race, the scheduled post time is 8 o'clock Eastern. That's another thing. Another low key thing I love about this bet is it's a great get out play. I have
7:30.
Yeah, 7:30.
You've
7:30.
All right. Well, I'm going to blame the computer for that. 7:30. We've got maiden 3-year-old fillies and mares going 6 furlongs on the dirt. Michelle, we're going to start off with you. How are we going to light this candle?
I mean, looking at this, you would think that MS for Magic is a very logical horse in here, although an 0 for 12 maiden, she's been pretty consistent and hits the board on a lot of occasions. I think the other horse that's playable is certainly Lady T for John Sheriffs, who ran this filly against Stakes Company, even though she was still a maiden. And that's kind of outside of his realm of, comfortability. Is that a word? Comfortability?
It is now.
Comfort.
Out of
Let's make up words. Okay, but certainly the horse that we should be talking about is the first horse, Karin With An I, which is a terrible name. I don't like the name at all. And I would reserve that name only for bottom level claimers. Unfortunately, we have an offspring here of Beholder, by Curlin. So this horse is bred to be a champion. I just don't like the name.
That's so funny. Karin
That
With
being
An I.
said, okay, so unfortunately, she's a 3-year-old against older because we're not riding any 3-year-old exclusive races at Santa Anita right now. Mandela is certainly capable first time out. Although he's not known for debut winners, he can have one ready to fire. Bad for her, she draws the rail. Good for her is if you go back and watch that gate drill on March 19th on XB TV, she broke running. Now, after she broke running and opened up a significant advantage on her overmatched workmate, I don't know if she got green or if the rider stopped because I couldn't tell. You can definitely see the reins tighten, but she allowed that workmate to get with her, and then they finished more on terms. I feel like that could have been by design because Mandela doesn't necessarily like his horses to blow other horses out of the water. He prefers them to work in company, in company. So, I'm a little hesitant to say like she's going to be the next best thing, but I was really impressed with how she at least started that gate drill. So for me, I'm going to use Karin With An I.
All right, 3 and 7. It sounds like the main fancies, if I'm assuming these numbers are straight through, which I think they are. And then the one Karin With An I, certainly a pedigree to be paying attention to there. Interesting runner for sure out of the Mandela barn. Billy, let's bring you in for your thoughts on this one. Where are you going to go?
Michelle said a lot of very intelligent things. Karin With An I obviously will get a ton of attention.
You like the name?
I don't. The name is the name. Maybe there's a great story behind it. We don't know. So I'm not going to judge on the name. But she did draw the rail. She's a first-time starter going against older that figures to get bet just because she is a daughter of Beholder. So I would not use her. When in races like this, I try to use experienced horses. I do favor older horses against 3-year-olds, but at this point in the year, it may not matter that much. Lady T to me is the most interesting horse in here. She gets Lasix for the first time. Which I think is interesting. She had to need the race last time when she did get beat by Gandora. And she was way back that day. I think she'll be more forwardly placed this time around with that race under her belt. She draws outside, which is also important. Victor Espinoza knows her well. And I think Lady T's the horse to beat. I do give a shot to Emma's for Magic, but like Michelle, I don't usually like to bet the 12-time maidens, although her best race recently was the race on the dirt when she lost to Zero Tolerance, who came back and won a stake after that. So you kind of have to use her because at some point she is going to find the field that she could beat. I thought an interesting horse, and unfortunately we don't have the morning lines, but I thought Secret Fix was an interesting horse from Shelby Ruiz. Shelby does a really nice job. She put up a big buyer number. I'm not a big buyer fan, but she did run a 78 last time in kind of an even race. But that was her second career start. She goes the same distance today. Curatolo takes over from Eldonado, and this horse is a 4-year-old. She is a Calbred running against Open, but I thought she might be interesting at a price.
All right.
But she also has been running against Open Company in her first 2, so it's not like you can discount what she's done. I thought she showed vast improvement last time out too, which was a positive for me.
Yep.
Wow. We'll see where the prices lie in that one. Some good ideas from the team.
Billy, I have a question for Billy then. Just looking because there's 2 Peter Urton horses, right? There's Emma's for Magic, who we all agree is camera shy. And then he's got the other one in here that only started once and was the favorite, didn't break on the rail, gets Lasix for the first time, gets blinkers on. I mean, if we have to pick an Urton, do we steer away from Emma's for Magic and go for the unproven horse?
This is one of those horses that you really need to check works. What I would do, we're doing this on a Thursday. The works will come out, start to roll in tomorrow, and see how this horse has been training. Obviously, blinkers on is a big deal. You do go from Pratt to Herrera, but Diego has been riding really well, and you get the 5-pound, you get first-time Lasix. So there are a lot of positives here. Obviously, you're giving up the experience to Emma's for Magic, and this is, but CRK is, one of Pete's big owners. They paid $300,000 for this filly. I like your point, Michelle. This horse does come out of a very key race where she was 4-5, lost Ironic Twist and Musica. Both those horses have done well since that January 29th start. I think you could absolutely use this horse.
One point I'll make also about family
affairs. You're not allowed to make points, Pete. That's not what you're here for.
I'm just here to look pretty. Is that what you're saying, Michelle?
Yeah.
That 4-5 on debut, that's usually a proxy for a horse that has speed, and she just didn't break at all. So she's going to show a lot more speed than that. I can pretty much guarantee it. So
absolutely,
interesting,
especially with Herrera.
Yeah, interesting idea for sure in that one. Let's zip up north to Golden Gate for the second leg of this pick 4. Their 8th race is a 3-year-old maiden claimer going 5.5 on the synthetic. Billy, we'll keep it with you.
Well, if you know anything about my background, my father produced a movie way back, probably I think it was in the 70s, and it was called The Frisco Kid. You guys might not. Michelle definitely didn't know that.
She's too young, but I know what you mean.
I'm like Googling. I'm like, hold on, the Frisco Kid. Hold on.
Frisco Kid. Yeah. I like a lot of things about this horse. Harrigan knows what he's doing. I don't like the jockey necessarily, who is 0 for 14, but sometimes I think he's due.
You know, Harrison Ford and Gene Wilder were in that movie?
Yes. Yeah. But blinkers on, gelding, and takes a big drop. This horse tried Calbreds, didn't fare well. Tried Maiden Special, did not fare well. But in both of those cases, on debut, he was 7-1. He comes back. He was not bet against open, but now he's dropping down to 25. They gelded him. They get blinkers. I think this is an interesting horse. Again, I have no idea what kind of price this horse might be, but I do like it on the drop. And then I think the logicals are Miley's Blue Cat and Shanghai Wildcat, the two cats, I call them. Tim McKenna, 21% up there, and he gets the leading guy, Frank Alvarado. This horse has run really well twice at this level and finished second both times. He's just really logical. And then Shanghai Wildcat, I like horses that show speed first time out and fade. This horse gets a half a furlong shorter this time around. 4 Quarters Corp, if you don't know them as owners, pretty sharp. So this horse wasn't bet at all first time out, but ran really well and might improve. Those are the 3 that I kind of landed on in here.
Interesting case for Frisco Kid, who is installed at 12-1 on the morning line, which just came through. So you got your price. It popped up on Timeform US, but who knows how reliable it is, because it was also the one that told me the other race went off at 8 p.m. So
they're going to give you the line after the race already went off.
Yep.
Give us your thoughts on this one, Michelle.
I also, like Billy, like the cats in here. But for my third option, when I'm constructing my Golden Hour Pick 4 ticket, which by the way, I'm a terrible ticket constructor, so don't take any of this to heart. I usually try and start with what would my ideal be if money were no object, right? And so I always end up with 3, maybe 4 horses per race, and then I have to whittle it down.
Okay.
From there. So I would start off with the 2 cats, and then I would add in here Winter Falcon for Blaine Wright. This horse broke from the rail on debut. I wasn't hammered, but wasn't completely ignored. I feel got a little bit of attention, and that was against Maiden Special Weight. So obviously he's taking a good size drop down here in for the $25,000 tag today. I like the fact that he did show a little bit of interest at one point, even though he gave way late. I feel like the race under his belt is going to do him good, and Blaine Wright can move a horse forward with their second career start.
Right. I think that's a great angle, Michelle. I think you're right on it. I like that horse too. I would go very, very deep in here. This is just one of those races. And Michelle, it's interesting. I too am a horrific ticket constructor. But what I've learned is try to just look at each race as an individual rather than as you're going. And where your strongest opinion lies, that's where you go. It doesn't matter what leg it's in.
Right.
Also, in these type of tickets, the first leg is very key, because if you like the favorite or it's a big favorite, sometimes it's best to just single that favorite if you like the horse.
You said the best word.
No. Sometimes it's best because if you go deep there, I would then not use the favorite. I'm saying. So I'm not scared to be knocked out, but the value of beating the favorite in the first leg is much greater than beating the favorite somewhere else, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to include. One reason I like to be skinny in the first 2 legs, which we've talked about, is, hey, if you blow up, you can always come back in the Golden Hour Double, the race that begins and with Santa Anita's 9th, the nightcap.
You think that Old Smoke would make me one of these shirts that said single, but then it was crossed out because I don't like singles?
I think we can talk to the boys. We can talk to the boys.
I have a hard time with singles, Billy. They make me. Yeah, it makes me.
Well, I was going to construct this. I was going to single a horse in the last race. I was going to try to go deep single and get it home because I like that too. I don't like hedging either, Pete. But if you're live for a lot of money to a couple horses, I know people that do that.
It does open up possibilities for sure. Yeah. But I mean, to Michelle's point, in an exotic bet, to have one way to look at a single in the golden hour pick 4 or the pick 6 is you are taking a win bet and you're overcomplicating it. One could make that argument. So sure. I see where she's coming from, but I, like you, Billy, when I can dial down and have at least, most of my money in a leg going through one horse with maybe a little bit of backup, I do tend to try to look at the world that way.
Yep.
Let's talk about this 9th race at Santa Anita, Michelle. We've got 4 and up fillies and mares, and an allowance race going 6 furlongs on the turf. How are we going to get through this leg?
I like
3 with single.
I like 3 horses in here. There'll be no singles for me. I like the one, Tame the Tigress for Ruben Alvarado. Was 4th last time out, but I don't feel like she got the greatest trip going down the hill. I think the return to flat is a little bit better for her. And so I'm going to use her. Hopefully it wasn't. I'm hoping that the scenario last time was because she didn't like the hill or the trip, not the fact that she wasn't facing Cabarets. And then the 2 horses to the outside, Equilove for Phil D'Amato, who just comes off a starter allowance win last time out off of the layoff, where I thought she looked really good, beating fillies who had racing recency. And then to the outside, Callan. She's been winless on the year. In fact, I don't know the last time she won. August at Del Mar going 5. She has to make up a lot of ground, unfortunate for her. And she also, okay, let me back that up. She makes up a lot of ground because she causes herself a lot of issues, right? So I like a horse like that if we can get past that, because I feel like if she breaks from the outside here and gets herself into a better position, she actually does have a relatively nice turn of foot and can get the job done. It took her a long time to break her maiden, but it was still, she always had these little issues. Unfortunately, she's 5 years old. I'm afraid she's going to keep having the issues, but I always feel like there's a chance there, that she overcomes just her own problems, because it's not that she's not good enough, and it's not that she's gotten like terrible trips, except for the ones that are by her own causing. So I'll probably use her. You have a morning line on her?
Yes, I do. It looks like Callan is installed at 5 to 1.
Oh yeah. See, for me, 5 to 1, 6 to, like, she's totally playable at that number, because I think that she's got the talent for it. She just really needs a clean trip, and maybe getting off the hill help. Maybe JJ is like going to be hungry and have ride a smart race. I'll
tell you what, there's pace to set up a late run.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. She needs pace. I mean, that's the key in this race. And the 6 furlong flat races, I feel like you kind of need to be in the race. I don't, it's different than when they're coming down the hill. Interesting, Michelle, that you didn't talk about Woodbine Way, that I thought was a really interesting horse that comes in. Barber and Watchell are very, very sharp. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this horse hasn't been out in a really long time, but last time we saw it, she was absolutely dominant in a starter allowance race at Belmont. And she catches a field that there's no superstars in here. In fact, the horse you like, I thought it was interesting that Equilove, who my own trainer, Phil D'Amato, is actually in for the $50,000 tag because she already cleared this condition a long time ago. So, rather than running a 2 other than, they come back in a 1 other than for the 50. But this horse is tactical. Pratt to Espinoza. And it's interesting. I looked today. There's so many horses that are going from Pratt to somebody else. I think I counted maybe 10 to 12.
Pratt's going to be in Arkansas. So
no. I'm just saying, but he's also leaving. I think we're going to see a lot of this Pratt off, and how are we going to adjust our handicapping without Flavian Pratt, who's clearly the best on our circuit? I would go very deep here. I think Equilove certainly has a chance. Callan, if the speed just stops, I definitely would use that fresh face of Woodbine Way with Cedillo, who generally is best when he is kind of on or near the lead. But I could use plenty though. Red Diamond is first against winners. It's one of my little pet peeves, Pete. I think that's the toughest race for horses after they break their maiden. So I generally, especially if I'm spreading, I need to throw out horses, that'd be kind of one horse that I would throw out. So plenty of options here. And since I know I'm going to be singling in the last, I can do that. And I can use a lot of those horses we've spoken about.
3, 9, and 10 I wrote down as 3 of the ones that you're particularly interested in there. Any others you wanted to name check as far as your spread goes besides Woodbine's Way, Equilove, and Callan?
There's plenty. You could make a case for a lot of these horses. Stressed, for example, comes out of the Senorita. back in May of 21. So it hasn't run in a very, very long time, but they had high hopes, even though she broke her maiden for 80. And Redham and O'Neill and Gutierrez are having a really good meet. They're winning a lot. So again, this is one of those races I would really check the workout reports as we get closer, maybe find a long shot that's working really well. Michelle's horse that she mentioned, Taming the Tigress, was for Ruben Alvarado. This horse is always there. I think she was a little over her head last time against Open. I think she does fit better with Calbred's Michelle, but she gets the rail this time, so she's going to have to figure out a good trip from in there without getting blocked. But I think this is a really spready race, and I think anybody can win.
Okay, let's talk about the last race we're going to talk about on this segment of the show. We're back at Golden Gate for the pay leg of both this Golden Hour Double and Golden Hour Pick 4. We've got $12,000 claimers, fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, going 5 furlongs on the turf. Billy, we'll start with you with the key question. How are we going to get paid?
Well, you know, it's interesting because in constructing my ticket and looking at these races, and I know Michelle has lost power, Pete. So we've lost Michelle. But I just didn't like this race. I'm going through these horses. I just didn't see a lot of horses that jumped off the page that looked like winners to me. So I just tried to find one horse that I could kind of focus on, and I came up with Lord Fusaichi. I don't know if you remember Fusaichi Pegasus.
Of course.
You do? Okay. I just want to make sure. Michelle was too young. But this horse, you know, Blaine Wright, smart guy, claims this horse in her second start for 20 after breaking her maiden for 12.5. Okay. So then what does he do? He protects this horse twice, runs her in a starter, comes back in a starter, and now goes back for 12.5. So this is probably where the horse belonged the whole time. And that's what I was kind of looking at in this race, to try to find someone that I like. And I like the fact that this horse has a little speed, could stay in contention, has faded a little bit, but shortens up now. Does it shorten up? Isn't it 5 furlongs? I just have to check. Yeah.
This is a flat 5.
Shortens up, flat 5, gets a nice towards, you know, middle of the pack out. What is he? I don't even know what number is 4, can be in the clear. There's a little speed inside of him. I figure she gets a good trip. And this guy Amador, who's riding, we've ridden him actually. He's a good young rider. And I think this horse could bring us home in the last. That's
right.
I
like it. It's a bold opinion, and it's a price. We've got 10-1 on the morning line for this one. Michelle, it got darker there. What's happening?
I lost like power at my house. I have no idea. So
wow.
My computer's on battery, so I'm using the light from my computer, and I'm on my cell phone. So if I sound terrible, that's why.
You actually sound okay. Do you remember this race well enough to tell us your numbers in it, or
well,
should
lucky
we just
for
pull
me,
some out of a
I am
hat?
so advanced. I use iPad, so I don't actually need batteries for that or power for that either. I just needed it for my internet.
Boom.
And my lights. But you know, hey, we all look a little bit better in the dark. So looking at the finale at Golden Gate. By the way, welcome back to turf racing up at Golden Gate. It's been on hiatus.
Oh, it's on the turf. I didn't even know that. Hello.
Hi, turf racing. I like Zakaya for Gloria Haley, who I have no idea who that is. But looking at this filly, she's taking a class drop down from Allowance Company. I mean, they're plummeting her. They've protected her for so long. She ran very well in maiden special weight races on several occasions. In fact, she broke her maiden going 5 on the grass right there at Golden Gate. Subsequently, she tried a couple of routes. Those weren't for her. She went to the layoff. She came back, didn't run great in her next 2 against much tougher. I like the fact that they're going to put her, I think, in a logical spot now with this big class drop, and she gets to return to sprinting on the grass. So I'm going to use Zakaya.
I like it, but we know you're not singling. So who else do you want on your ticket here?
I singled Loud Fusaichi, by the way.
I did. I listened to you talk about Loud Fusaichi.
He's going to be very loud come golden hour time.
Okay, you'll think I'm like crazy. That's really the only horse I liked.
Really?
That's what I was saying about this race. This race is you either have to go all or figure out who you really think is going to win. And I didn't want to go all.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Well, you'll be the cold 4. Michelle will be the cold 6, and we'll try to get a winner out of here. We'll try to get paid in these golden hour bets on Saturday.
Now I'm just gonna have to combine our tickets though and go 4 and 6.
Well, that's where that works. I mean, that's part of the fun of doing these shows, and the reason we listen to horse racing podcasts.
We'll be there all day Saturday. We got a bunch of horses running Saturday. You guys want some insight on our horses?
Heck yeah! What else do we need to know,
Billy? In the third race at Santa Anita, we have 2 of the 5 in the Singletary Stakes. I don't know, Pete, if you remember Singletary at all.
That would have been when we met, my friend.
Yes, it was. We have 2 of the 5 horses. We have a first-time in the country European horse named Balnikov for Phil D'Amato. We own this horse with Old Bones and with Matiket. Very nice horse, training really well. I don't know what they put on his morning line. My guess would be like 3-1 or something.
9-5.
Oh, geez, 9-5. Well, I liked him better at 3-1. Training really, really well. I know Phil really likes this horse. This is an interesting race because it's all going to be pace. Sumter's going to be in front, and we hope that Durante goes with him. Handy Dandy will have a better trip this time with a 5-horse field. They should be the first 3, and then you're going to see the 2 D'Amato horses, which is Balnikov and Almanera, towards the back of this 5-horse field. Almanera had an absolutely brutal trip, and I advise everyone to go watch this horse in his first start. We really liked him that day. He was 9-1 coming up down the hill. And he's a big, long, striding horse that needs to be in the clear. And we told that to Mr. Curatolo that day. And if you watch the race, he absolutely got a brutal trip. He came up the inside, got absolutely stopped twice. I mean, it says it in the form. It says off slow, weighted, lacked room. And that's an understatement. So look for both of these horses to be on the scene late, and it'll be really pace dependent how they fare. But in a race, I think Almanera, what did they put Almanera? 8-1, 5-1?
Yeah.
8. Yeah, I think actually, listen, both horses are training really, really well. They've worked against each other. It's hard to separate them. And Almanera has a chance to be a really big price in there. And he might, that's a good pick 5. I don't know what's your guys' theory on when they're short fields and pick 5s?
I mean, I get the logic of why it makes it a less attractive betting proposition, but you can do really well when you can get something that isn't one of the obvious choices in that scenario. So I would say you could almost take a small amount of bankroll and single a horse like that you think is going to be the value at 8-1. Sorry, Michelle.
Michelle goes. I mean, I would just, in this race, look, I'm going to take, obviously I'm biased towards our horses, but I think Sumter's going to be probably an odds-on type favorite, and I think he's very beatable in here. I think there's other speed, and I think hopefully one of our horses comes and runs him down late. In the 5th race, we have Gold Phoenix, who has run 2 very, very good races. He was 2-1 in his first start in the country, which was in January. Had a brutal trip that day. Pratt got off and said, I screwed that one up. And then last time, I mean, you just look at his Beyer speed figures. He's run 88 and 91, and he's finished second twice. There was a horse that day named Burnin' Turf for Dan Blacker that just got an unbelievable trip along the rail and kind of opened up. And Gold Phoenix was running. I mean, they went 113, 91 Beyer, and
Gold Phoenix was my single that day.
Yeah, it was brutal.
You single a lot for somebody who doesn't single. I just want to throw that out there.
I hate to do it, but sometimes I'm forced to.
Yeah,
And Billy was like, no lose for Golden Phoenix. And I never in my life would have thought that 8-year-old Burnin' Turf would have come up the rail on the cutback in distance and done that.
It was a crazy race. This horse has just been a little unlucky. And once again, he's going to be at the mercy of the trip because this time he drew the rail in a full field of 12. Kyle Frey takes over. Frey worked him the other day, knows him. He's a talented horse. He's not a great workout horse, so don't judge him by the workouts. He's never really has been. And he should love the stretch out. And the race is, he should go favored in here, and he should be pretty tough.
Any other participants for Little Red Feather on Saturday?
We actually bought into a horse named Steel Sunshine, who drew the 11 of 11 in the Florida Derby. So we're really excited. He's 30-1 on the morning line. Had we drawn better, I would have said this is a great horse to be a tri-filler. I watched him. I was just down in Florida. I watched him gallop the other day. He is such a cool horse. He's by constitution, and Kerry Brogdon was nice enough to allow us to buy in, and it's for our East Coast fund. And so it's going to be an exciting day of watching him in the Florida Derby. Like you said, anything can happen, right? All he has to do is run second, and all of a sudden you're in the Kentucky Derby. We're hoping for kind of a pace meltdown. We drew 11, which is terrible at Gulfstream, as you know, Pete, as I've heard you say before. But this is a late running horse, so the instructions will just be, hey, do everything you can to just save some ground around that first turn and get them just in a nice relaxed position and come with a big run.
A lot of stuff to root for on the Little Red Feather side.
Yeah.
Michelle, I don't want to exclude you from this part of the conversation. Any runners you're particularly excited about watching anywhere in the country on Saturday?
Oh, anywhere in the country?
Yeah.
Pharaoh's Heart.
I don't know. In the Arkansas Derby, I have Cyberknife in the Derby futures at 50-1.
Okay.
I would really like to see him run a big race, and I would love to see Secret Oath win that just from a purely like selfish in the sporting world standpoint. Yeah, I think it would be a great story, and I think that'd be very cool. But financially, I would like to see Cyberknife run a really big race.
Hey, the exacta
Derby. I can't cash a 50-1 Derby futures pool on him if he can't even make the Derby field.
You got to be in it to win it, but also the corollary, all you need is a chip and a chair. So
chip. That is Ryan. That is my husband's motto: chip and a chair.
Chip and a chair. Good name. There's a name for you.
That's good. You better get that before the show.
I've got that actually on my list, except that it sounds like a claiming horse.
All right. Well,
it just sounds like a horse who's going to overachieve.
You think so?
Yeah, I would think
Pete,
a modest pedigree, but high talent. You could go with chip in a chair.
When I look at you right now from my little, you look this big on my cell phone, right? Because I have an iPhone 6. But when you sit back, it looks like you're wearing mouse ears.
Oh,
well, that's the logo. That's the logo.
Yeah.
Where's she going now? What's she doing now?
Oh, she's got her
there
mouse.
There we go. There we go.
Perfect.
Now we can match.
You guys are the best.
On that note, I think we're going to wrap this segment. We're going to pop this up on YouTube as its own thing, by the way. There's so much meat on the bone here. I think we're going to have to do that. But that was great getting a chance to talk with you guys. We'll be talking much more ahead of Derby. I will hopefully see you both in Lexington before too long. Really appreciate the time and the contributions. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for having us, Pete. Good luck, everybody.